square root of 4, right?
It is the square root of 4, which is?
2 times 2.
So this, if you were asked to put this in radical form, you could say, okay, I'm going to put it in radical form, and then you can simplify it. This would be the square root of 2 times 2, which is equal to 2. Okay. So let's just say we were given something else. Let's say that we were given 4 to the 5/4 power. What would that be equal to? 5 or 4 to the 5/4 power. What would that be equal to here? So what does the 4 on the bottom mean? Like the 4 in the bottom of the exponent. What does that mean? So if we're covering up the base, we don't need to look at the base. I just want us to focus on the exponent. What does the 4 on the bottom mean? What does the 4 on the bottom mean? So if we look at our previous example, we saw that the 2, what did it mean? What did the square root mean? Generally, what does that mean? How many of that number do we need? So for the previous example, we needed 2, right? We needed 2 to leave the square root. So if we have a 4 on the bottom of your exponent, how many of that base do you think you need? 4, right? So if there's a 4 on the bottom of the exponent, that means you need 4 of them to leave. So how we determine that by writing in radical form is we write that number in that little corner right there. Right? In that little nook, we can write the number of that base that we need to leave. So in this case, this would be root 4, because you need 4 of that number to leave this symbol. What does this 5 mean on the top right of this exponent? What does this 5 mean on the top right of that exponent? Joaquin? How many times we're going to multiply by? So that means we're going to multiply by once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. And again, now we want to think about, how do I simplify this? Right? How do I simplify this? Can anyone help me out here? How do I simplify this? So let's go back to what we just talked about. How many of these 4s do we need to leave this symbol? Do I only need 1? Or you're saying only 1 would come out?
Only 1 needs to stay, so you need 4 to go out.
Right, we need 4 because there's a little 4 in here. And if we look at our exponent, there's a little 4 on the bottom. So that means that we need 4 4s. So we have 4 4s, right? And so for this one, 4 4s, only 1 4 comes out. I know there's a lot of 4s. And that would be your answer. That would be your simplified answer, because one of the 4s could not leave because it doesn't have 3 other 4s to leave, while the 4 on the outside is a combination of these 4 together. Okay. Any questions there? Any questions there? Okay, the last part I want to go over is if we have something like this. Let's say that we have 7 to the 3 halves. I'm sorry, negative 3 halves. So we have something that's 7 to the negative 3 halves. So what is this equivalent? So I just want to look at the exponent again. What does the 2 mean on the bottom of the exponent? So please put away any phones that are out. Right, how many of those numbers I need to have to leave that root symbol, right? So in this case, I need 2 to leave. Okay, what does that negative mean in the exponent? What does that mean? Anyone help me out here? What does this negative mean in the exponent? Sam?
You have to make it
you have to make it a fraction, so it is going to be 1 over, and we know it's going to be square root. And so, just as a reminder that if there's a square root symbol and there's no number in that little nook or that little cranny, then you know that it's just assumed to be 2, that you need 2 to leave. So in this case, we have one more number to look at, which is the 3 in the exponent. So how many 7s am I going to multiply here? How many 7s am I going to multiply here? So again, we want to look, the exponents are telling us what to do. I see a few people who told me, which is 7 times 7 times 7. And the reason we know this again is because there's a 3 on the exponent on the top. So that top 3 tells me how many 7s I'm going to multiply. Again, the negative tells me it's going to be a fraction where it's going to be 1 over. And then the 2 on the bottom tells me it's going to be a root symbol like this. So again, the negative tells me it's going to be a fraction. The 3 tells me how many 7s I'm going to multiply. And the 2 tells me how many 7s I need to leave that symbol. Okay, so looking at this, how many 7s do I have? How many pairs of 7s do I have, actually? How many pairs? Joaquin? I have 1 pair. So one of the pairs can leave while the other one has to stay. So it equals 1 over 7 root 7. Okay, now this comes the tricky part. This is not really accepted in the mathematical community to leave it in this form. This is what we call unsimplified, right? The reason is there's a radical on the bottom, and we don't like radicals on the bottom. So what do you guys think? What can we do to get rid of that 7 on the bottom? We multiply by
7. Wait.
So again, we're trying to get rid of the radical on the bottom. So what's wrong? How come this 7 can't leave on the bottom of the radical? What is it missing, or what does it not have? So it's missing something. What is it missing? What do we need to leave a radical or square root like this? You want to give a guess, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. In a way. In a way. So it needs another friend. It needs another radical 7, right? It needs another radical 7. So how can we provide that? Well, we can multiply by root 7. However, you can't just change the value of the whole equation. You have to make sure that it's equal. So you can always multiply by a number divided by a number because that is always equal to 1. You're not changing the value of the expression. So what happens is now we have radical 7 on top. Yeah, I'm going to actually move the camera down. So you have radical 7 on the bottom, and on the bottom, this is an extra step you do not need, but you have a radical 7 times radical 7, so now both of them can leave, so this equals 7 times 7. There's no more radical because there's nothing under the radical anymore, and so your answer is radical 7 divided by 49, and that is your final answer. So anytime you see a radical on the bottom, you actually have to simplify it more. And on the test, I will take away from your points, just because in your subsequent math classes, that's something they're going to be looking at a lot. So this is just something practice for later. Question?
How many points potentially would you get?
So for me, just because this is the first time you're seeing this, I would probably take away 0.5. That would just be the difference between an A plus and an A. Or a minus and a B. Okay. Are there any additional questions?